Our final segment of this vlog/podcast spectacular coming to you from Atlanta is going to be about alignment, realignment, moving pieces in the HBCU universe. SIAC, we had a bit of, we'll call it the bombshell. Edward Waters, out of nowhere, announced that they are joining the SIAC. It's going to be a couple of year process. We knew Savannah State was joining. A lot of people online love to talk about this school should go there, or this school should go there. And then some people speculate this school is running out of money. They're going to drop down to Division II.
Right.
What area do you think, Luke Williams, from the Black College Sports page, that we'll see the next bit of movement, if any at all?
It's hard to say, Tally, as we were surprised that Edward Waters is coming into the Black College Conference fold, joining the SIAC.
Or I should say, do you think the trend will be to move up or to move down?
It's a good question, but again, the rumors are more moving down than moving up. People who are cash starved, who are fighting a serious battle to keep their school afloat.
South Carolina State. Norfolk State. I'm sorry.
Need some water?
Yeah.
We're in my home. The refrigerator's right over there.
Yeah, and we actually got some of that discussion at the SIAC while I was there. Several people came up to me saying, "What have you heard about this school or that school and their financial?"
We drop names, man. We drop names around here.
Oh, is that how we do it?
We drop names around here.
Okay, I'm not dropping any names. I don't want to get in any trouble. But no, this is real. I mean, the financial problems, they're not just happening at schools that we hear about. There are even schools that are quote unquote on top. Let's say like a North Carolina A&T. How about that? I gave you a name. They've had to make some cuts, even though they've been to Celebration Bowls and they're playing on national television and winning across the conference, winning the conference team of the year, program of the year records. Even they have to make some cuts.
The Aggies?
Yes. The bottom line.
Here's a hypothetical. Okay. Hypothetical. I've heard rumors, thoughts, conjecture that A&T might move from the MEAC altogether. Tennessee State didn't move.
Pull a Hampton.
Hampton. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Could you ever see a world where that could happen?
Well, I see a world that I think is real right now, that many schools in the MEAC and the SWAC are looking for the best deals they can make. Nobody wants to operate at a deficit. If they can find a home where they can increase their exposure, increase their enrollment, increase their coffers, they'll look at it. And every AD pretty much has that responsibility. And I understand even someone like A&T has looked into it. Maybe not necessarily planning to move, but just to understand what are the options out there if the thing comes along. So when you see a Hampton leave, that was kind of unexpected, even though if you talk to the people in the conference, they say Hampton had been in that process for about 10 years. It had actually been turned down by 2 or 3 conferences before they made the move.
Savannah's ready to go after they left the CIAA.
You know, if a team leave with a place that they started, they're not gonna. You know, as you get a girl from over here. You know,
and I think that I think the jury's still out about Hampton's move to the Big South.
We only been a year.
We're only 1 year in. Let's see. Many people, I've heard commissioners even say, about schools that have left the conference, they'll be back. And you know what? Turns out some of them came back. Savannah State's coming back. Claflin left. And if you really want to know, Claflin left the SIAC to come to the CIAA. What was their draw?
Basketball,
the CIAA tournament. So people
promptly moved to Baltimore, and now they're like, wow, we got a long trip.
Why did we do that? Exactly.
They still don't get money, though.
So it's a changing landscape, like you said, up and down. There have been changes almost in every conference except the SWAC.
I was about to say, the SWAC has kind of
been steady Freddy
through this whole process. I mean, you don't even hear the only rumor I've heard is maybe the SWAC would look to acquire some people.
Well, the SWAC is like a fist, man. They're just a whole different thing in the HBCU network. I mean, you talk about they see themselves as SWAC schools and they fight and argue amongst themselves, but they're a pretty tight fist. Now, you've always got people we got FAMU and Southern playing this year, and that's been a long-standing HBCU football rivalry. It's been out of things for a while, but FAMU, they're always one of them schools. They're one of the teams that always always wants to move too. You know, they came in late to the MEAC after a decade later. They tried to move to Division I a couple of times and it didn't go through. And they're always like, well, you know what? The MEAC doesn't appreciate us, got us going all the way. You know, why don't we go look to a FBS or go to the SWAC? So there's that contingent. I don't think you'll see it happening because their trip from Tally,
they've got a whole lot of problems.
Tally to Houston is just as long, and yeah, so you got that there. You've also got the MEAC has kind of, they got to figure out what their strategy is if they're going to go forward and move, because their strategy has been, hey, who's coming up from the CIAA? Who's coming up from the SIAC? Let's just grab them. But now, and we talked about Winston-Salem State, when their move didn't go through, because MEAC had accepted Central, Winston-Salem State, and Savannah State. 2 of those schools have now gone back to Division II. The money is just tight. I don't think people understand. It's like, oh, well, we got a great basketball team, we got a good football team. We can be D1, we can beat the MEAC, we can beat the SWAC, but you have to. There's scholarships that have to be there. There's 20 plus scholarships you have to have in football that you don't have to have at the D2 level. And even a lot of the schools who've been Division I for a long time are still struggling to put those numbers together. So you have to ask yourself, are the days of a Division I HBCU conference, how much longer do we have this? I mean, you got the MEAC stretching so far, you got the SWAC stretching so far, and schools are kind of looking at their options and seeing what's open.
The worst thing you can have in these situations is a disgruntled president who feels like he's been slighted in some way, shape, form, or fashion, or his program has been slighted in one shape, form, or fashion. I think that was at the root of Hampton's decision to leave the MEAC. There was a lot of internal things that went on with the conference office leaving Greensboro, moving to Hampton, or moving to Virginia Beach. There was some thing about whether the basketball tournament was going to play it in Norfolk or Hampton. It didn't go to Hampton. It ended up in Norfolk. That was part of that story, even though, as you said, Hampton was considering and looking for a landing spot. I've heard that things like Southern has actually looked at other conference affiliations. And the thing from our perspective as reporters, the thing has always been that anytime somebody leaves, so quote unquote, the HBCU fold in terms of being in the HBCU conference, it's almost like we consider it like a loss, like they've moved away.
Right.
But the reality is, this is
they're still HBCU?
No, but this is the way college sports is going now.
Right.
People are realigning every year. I mean, who ever thought Maryland would be in the Big Ten?
Right.
Teams,
a lot of the Power 5 moves trickles down.
Exactly.
It's reactionary.
Yeah.
One team moves, and those slots just kind of find their way to the bottom of the rung, if you will.
Yeah, I think for, like I said, for the MEAC, you got to kind of look at, if you're going to expand, do you really want to go back and try to get a team that thinks they can be Division I again? I know a lot of people are always kind of saying, hey, Virginia State should move up and things like that. Virginia State has it really good right now, really cushy. They don't have a lot of competition Division II wise in their state. There's only 4 or 5 Division II schools in the state of Virginia. So a lot of guys who aren't Division I, maybe, academically, but maybe borderline athletically, they can get. And you've seen how they've been competitive with Norfolk State, who is Division I in basketball and football. I think, Norfolk State beat them this year, but it was still a close game. And both teams won their conference tournament, their conferences in the regular season. So I think for Virginia State, it would be definitely a mistake for them to go to Division I, where you gotta have many ways to get money. I think one of the things about Winston-Salem State that people didn't really get was their football stadium. They don't own the football stadium. Bowman Gray is leased, so you gotta pay that. And then their basketball arena, it's a gym. It's not an arena. They can't make any money off of that too. So you have to be able to generate these incomes and be able to, again, add those scholarships not only for football, so then you have to add those scholarships for women's sports as well and continue to put them up. And it's expensive. Plus now I think it's $1 million fee, to go up to Division I. So, how many schools I have the money to do that now? I don't think it's that many.
If you're going to need a loan, you might have to call Sam Washington and tell him to bring
some of that money.
Yeah, well, they're getting Duke's money this year. So
yeah.
Well, we'll leave the conversation right there. We've had a lot of fun talking basketball, football, and everything else. We talked mostly football. I don't know why I said basketball, but we've had those conversations as the preseason rolls on, and before you know it, those guys will be out on the field making touchdowns, and we'll be talking about that as well. For Lute Williams, for Stephen J. Gaither, I'm Tolly Carr. Thanks for hanging out with us.